Hello, students. Today I'm going to introduce you to informational text structure, and we're going to apply this skill to the power of the hero's journey. Let's begin with our learning objectives. Our learning objective is after rereading and discussing a model of close reading, students will be able to use informational text structure to analyze how an author's ideas or claims are developed or refined. And your success criteria, how you know that you've been able to successfully learn this skill, is going to be through the Your Turn activity on tab 4, as well as being able to apply this to the power of the hero's journey, which is something that you're going to be looking at and during the close read of this. So let's go ahead and begin on tab 1 with the definition. I would suggest taking a look at this video real quick. It's pretty short. And let's go ahead and read the introduction text together. Text structure refers to the organizational pattern authors of nonfiction use to present information. I'm going to stop briefly there and point out that when we're talking about text structure, we're specifically talking about nonfiction texts or informative texts. If it's a fictional text, they also have text structure, but it's a different list of structures. I'm not going to get into that list now because it would just be confusing, so we'll move forward. Many informational texts use the text structure of description, in which the author includes specific characteristics of a person, event, or place using descriptive adjectives or keywords. So this is something that you would see a lot in like encyclopedia entries, or if it's just like an article that's describing an event or a person, they would use what we call a description or a descriptive structure. Other common informational text structures include, and these are the ones that you're going to want to learn, sequential, problem and solution, cause and effect, and comparison contrasts. And now we're going to learn a little bit more about what these are. In a sequential text structure, authors present information about events or steps in a process in the order in which they take or have taken place. So, in other words, sequential text structure can be applied two different ways. If you're talking about events, then it would be the order in which those events happened. That would be a sequential structure. Or if you're talking about steps, then it would be like step 1, step 2, step 3, or phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. That's a sequential structure. All right, next. Writers who specialize in history or science topics often use a cause and effect text structure to explain how or why something happened. So I think that should be pretty straightforward. A cause and effect text structure, the purpose of it is explaining here's what happened and here's what it led to. Here's what it resulted in. Here was the cause and here was the effect. That's a cause and effect text structure. Many authors use compare and contrast text structure to present information about things that are different but have something in common, such as two points of view on a subject. And I think comparison and contrast is one of the most common ones that's used in high school level essay writing, and I think you probably used it for your last essay when you're comparing and contrasting two texts for their themes or their central idea or their points of view. And then finally, or a writer may present a problem or a series of problems and offer solutions on how to solve them. That would be the problem and solution structure. All right. It says authors may also use text structure to organize information about multiple topics or use more than one organizational pattern within the same text. So you can have switches in the text structure. Authors don't have to just follow one structure through the entire essay. They can start out one way, like maybe start out sequential, and then maybe move into a cause and effect or a comparison contrast or descriptive if they wanted to. So they can kind of mix it up and play with it, and they can go back and forth if they wanted to. So the task is that by the end of this unit, hopefully you'll be able to identify different text structures. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the vocabulary tab. This just reiterates the different structures that I just defined from tab 1. So make sure that you take a minute to go ahead and do the drag and drop on that, just to make sure that you are familiar with those different structures before you move into the model tab. Let's go ahead and get into the model tab. As always, the top half gives you a bullet point checklist for how to apply this skill and the few questions that you can ask yourself when you're evaluating text. And then the bottom half is a student model. So looking at Power of the Hero's Journey, the student that analyzed it here is looking towards the beginning of the essay, and in the second paragraph of the essay, which is still technically the introduction, there's also no law that says that you have to have a 1 paragraph introduction, even though that's what we typically do in school. In this case, this essay that you're reading, The Power of the Hero's Journey, has a 2 paragraph introduction. But the student highlighted the last sentence of the second paragraph and thinks that that's probably the thesis of the essay. And I agree with the student. I believe that is the thesis. So this is what they highlighted. The archetype of the hero's journey is important because it helps us understand the common building blocks human beings have used to tell stories across time and cultures. And yeah, that definitely qualifies as a thesis. It sort of summarizes and encapsulates what the whole point of the essay is going to be. Louise Munson, the author of this, is looking at the archetype of the hero's journey. In other words, the pattern that the hero's journey sort of spells out. And this makes a claim that it's important because, so that's a claim. It's important because why? Well, because it helps us understand the common building blocks that human beings have used to tell stories across time and cultures. So this is, even though this isn't an argumentative essay, it's not trying to persuade its readers to like take a stance necessarily. It is a claim that's being made, and that claim will be supported with evidence and reasons throughout the essay. So let's take a look at the student's note. The second paragraph seems to contain the essay's thesis. The hero's journey is important because it helps us understand the essential components of human stories. I wonder how the writer will present or explain those components. And this is really the key difference between an argumentative essay and an informative essay, where an argumentative essay is going to try to defend its points and persuade its reader. An informative essay is more of an explanation. It's they're going to present or explain the points that they're making. All right, so let's take a look here, scrolling past this. So we have another highlight from the student talking about structure. So first they found the thesis, and now they're going to look at trying to identify what kind of structure The Power of the Hero's Journey has. So it says, she continues reading The Power of the Hero's Journey and analyzes how the thesis is developed and refined by particular sections of the text. And this leads her to understanding the structure. And let's take a look at the notes here. She says, from the headings, and this is the heading over here, stage 1 departure, and then 1, the call of adventure. From the headings, I can tell the author is using a sequential text structure to list the steps of the hero's journey. Remember that the sequential structure is like things in order. So in this case, she's absolutely right. It's listing the different stages of the hero's journey and all of the steps within each of those stages. And the first step is the call to adventure. And she's doing it all in order. So that is a sequential text structure. And then she notes here that the first step ends with an example from literature, Katniss, that's from the Hunger Games, and tells how she fits the archetype of a hero. And what you notice here throughout this essay, when you take a second look at this essay, is Louise Munson kind of follows this pattern. First, she has the stage, and then she has the little subcategory of each step. And with each step, she gives a definition or an explanation of that step. And then she finishes it off with examples. And in this case, it was example from the Hunger Games. And this is repeated all throughout the essay. It is first the step, and then an explanation of that step, and then an example. And that is really good informative essay writing, to have the step, the explanation of the step, and an example. So keep that in mind for when you ultimately write your own informative essay at the end of this unit. All right, once you have read through this and you feel comfortable, then head on over to tab 4, where you will complete a little analysis of the text that's been highlighted, also from The Power of the Hero's Journey, and submit this, and you can check your own results, and it will give you the explanations for if you got it wrong. It will tell you why you got it wrong, and it will also show you which one was correct. So if you do get it wrong, just learn from your mistakes and try to figure out what it was, where you went off. And if it's something that you want to chat with me about, more than happy to talk with you. All right, good luck.